Africa, with over 1.2 billion people, has limited influence in trade agreements and world marketing issues. Despite being the engine of the world, Africa faces significant challenges, including poverty and financial instability. Colonial masters divisions have made it difficult for Africans to trade with their own brothers and sisters, but easy to trade with Europe and with America. Intra-African trade holds potential for Africa, but many countries rely heavily on international trade. By promoting intra-African trade, Africa can tap into the potential of its people and the world. When it comes to trade, Africa has a lot of potential that is often overlooked. Many African countries rely heavily on trade with countries outside of the continent. But what if they started trading more with each other? Let's explore the importance and benefits of intra-African trade for Africans and the world. Africa struggles with trade with its own African brothers and sisters due to colonial divisions and a lack of solutions to their own problems. Why? Because our colonial masters drew several lines dividing us, calling some Kenyans, some Ghanaians, some Nigerians, etc., making us feel we are different people. Despite Africa's great business opportunities and wealth, it loses money due to high trade costs. Liberalizing trade within Africa could help remove this due to Africa's inability to reach its business potential, particularly in intra-Africa trade and markets. Problem and give Africa a major say in international markets. By increasing intra-Africa trade, which currently stands at only 10% to 50%, Africa could benefit more as a whole and have a greater influence in international markets. With better trade within Africa, the continent could reduce the money lost to high trade costs and improve its overall economic development. Yet despite the introduction of free trade areas, customs unions and common markets within the region, the level of intra-African trade remains among the lowest in the world America and about 60% in Western Europe. One of the main reasons why intra-African trade is important is because it can help boost economic growth on the continent. By trading with each other, African countries can create more jobs, increase productivity, and stimulate innovation. This can lead to overall economic development and prosperity for the people of Africa. Currently, many African countries rely heavily on trade with countries outside of the continent. This can make them vulnerable to fluctuations in global markets and prices. By trading more with each other, African countries can reduce their dependence on foreign markets and become more self-sufficient. Increased trade among African countries can help promote regional integration and cooperation. This can lead to stronger political ties, improved infrastructure, and better diplomatic relations. Ultimately, this can create a more stable and peaceful continent. Intra-African trade can also create opportunities for small businesses to grow and thrive. By trading with neighboring countries, small businesses can access new markets, expand their customer base, and increase their profits. This can help reduce poverty and inequality in Africa. Through increased trade, African countries can also promote cultural exchange and understanding. This can help break down stereotypes, foster mutual respect, and build bridges between different communities. Ultimately, this can lead to a more united and harmonious continent. By trading more with each other, African nations can reduce their reliance on foreign markets. They can become more resilient to global shocks. This economic empowerment will have ripple effects, raising living standards and driving sustainable development. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfCFTA, which was officially launched on January 1st, is a groundbreaking initiative aimed at revolutionizing Africa's economic landscape by establishing the largest free trade area in the world. This agreement seeks to serve as a shining example of cross-border collaboration in a time marked by increasing isolationism. Currently, Africa only represents 2% of global trade, with a mere 17% of African exports being intracontinental. In stark contrast, Asia boasts a 59% intracontinental trade rate, while Europe leads with 68%. The AfCFTA connects 1.3 billion individuals across 55 nations, boasting a collective GDP of $3.4 trillion. Its primary objectives include reducing trade barriers, integrating Africa into global supply chains, and streamlining customs procedures. According to a recent report by the World Bank, the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, is projected to increase regional income by 7%, amounting to $450 billion. This agreement is also expected to accelerate wage growth for women and elevate 30 million individuals out of extreme poverty by the year 2035. Additionally, both skilled and unskilled workers will experience a wage increase of 10.3% and 9.8% respectively. The AfCFTA underscores the African Union's strong commitment to poverty alleviation through trade, a connection that is becoming increasingly acknowledged. As Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the director for the general position at the World Trade Organization, WTO, aptly stated, trade is a powerful tool for positive change, and when utilized effectively, it has the potential to uplift millions from poverty and foster shared prosperity. The success of the AfCFTA will depend on the commitment of African governments to implement its provisions effectively. Increased intra-African trade is not just about large corporations, it's about empowering the millions of small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, that form the backbone of African economies. SMEs, often led by women and young people, are the engines of innovation and job creation. Easier access to a larger African market can provide them with unprecedented opportunities. They can expand their customer base, access new technologies, and grow their businesses. This, in turn, will lead to more jobs, higher incomes, and a stronger middle class. The benefits of intra-African trade extend beyond economics. Trade can be a powerful tool for fostering cultural exchange and building unity among African nations. As goods and people move more freely across borders, so too do ideas, traditions, and values. This exchange can help break down stereotypes, foster understanding, and strengthen the bonds of Pan-Africanism. Imagine a continent where differences are celebrated and shared experiences create a sense of shared identity. Section 8. Women at the forefront. Trade as a tool for gender equality. Empowering women is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. The AfCFTA clearly focuses on improving the lives of women. There is a risk that some of the economic gains made by women through trade could be reversed by the COVID-19 crisis. According to the Economic Commission for Africa, women account for around 70% of informal cross-border traders in Africa. Through such work, women can be vulnerable to harassment, violence, confiscation of goods, and even imprisonment. Tariff reductions under the AfCFTA will enable informal women traders to operate through formal channels, bringing better protection. Furthermore, a growing manufacturing sector would provide new job opportunities, especially for women. As AfCFTA Secretary General Wamkele Mene stated, the AfCFTA will be the opportunity to close the gender income gap and the opportunity for SMEs to access new markets. This is significant since small and medium-sized enterprises account for 90% of jobs in Africa. Section 9. Navigating challenges, imbalances, and roadblocks. While the potential of intra-African trade is immense, it's important to acknowledge the challenges that lie ahead. Trade imbalances between African nations are a concern. One disadvantage of intra-African trade is that some countries may have more resources or better infrastructure than others, which can create an imbalance in trade. This can lead to some countries becoming too dependent on others for certain goods and services. In addition, poor trade policies and corruption can hinder the growth of intra-African trade. This can lead to uneven distribution of benefits. Addressing these imbalances will require targeted investments in infrastructure, education, and technology transfer to support the growth of industries in all African countries. Section 10. A brighter future intra-African trade and global impact. Increased intra-African trade is not just about Africa. It has the potential to reshape the global trading system, making it fairer and more equitable. By diversifying their economies and adding value to their products, African nations can move up the global value chain. They can become more equal partners in international trade. This shift will benefit not just Africa, but also the global community by creating a more prosperous and interconnected world. Intra-African trade can bring positive change for Africans and the world by boosting economic growth, reducing dependence on foreign markets, promoting regional integration, creating opportunities for small businesses, and promoting cultural exchange. The African Union, AfCTFA, is deepening ties across the continent while the world faces challenges such as implementation, equity, and infrastructure. Implementation should focus on national problems and cross-border solutions, while equity should be understood to protect smallholder farmers from food insecurity and poor nutrition. Infrastructure needs in Africa are substantial, with a financing gap between $68, $108 billion, driving most countries' trade outward rather than inward. Section 11, conclusion. The time for African unity is now. The journey towards increased intra-African trade will not be without its challenges, but the potential rewards are too great to ignore. The time for African unity is now. By embracing the power of trade, African nations can unlock a brighter future for their people and for generations to come. The world is watching, ready to witness the rise of a united and prosperous Africa. Subscribe to The Novel Reason for more intriguing insights.